Python includes 4 data collection types: a list, a tuple, a set, and a dictionary. So a list is a collection which is ordered and changeable, and the lists are written in square brackets, such as my list, the name of your list, equals, and then you'll put the contents of the list inside these square brackets. Let's say banana, you can say apple, and let's say peach. Now, unlike some of the other collection types, lists can have multiple items within it, so that we can have 2 peaches if we want. Great. Let's print this to see how it looks. So Python arrays.py. Great. There we can see our list. Now let's say we wanted to access a certain item within the list. Let's say we wanted to access the first item and print it out. The first item is index 0. So we'll do this by saying print my list, and then in square brackets we'll pass in the index, which is index 0 for the first item. Python. Great, so we get back banana like we requested. So let's say we wanted to change banana to a strawberry. So we'll do this by saying my list, pass in the index of the item we want to change. In this case it's 0. Say equals to, and then we'll pass in strawberry. Print it out. Great, so now we see our list contains strawberry instead of banana. Let's say we wanted to loop through the list and display each component on a new line. We'll do this by doing a simple loop. For I in my list, we want to print I. Say see, now we get banana, apple, peach, peach, just like our array. So what's happening here is I represents each item within the list. So the first time it loops through it, I is set at index 0. And then it prints out the item in index 0. Then it loops through it again, and I changes to index 1. And at index 1 is apple, so it gets printed out. The third time it gets loops, I changes to 2. Index 2 is peach, so it prints out peach. Same for the third. Great. Now we want to check if an item is indeed in a list. We'll do this with a simple if statement. We'll say if banana and then we'll say in my list, and then we'll want to print some message so we know it's in there. Print banana is in the list. Great, so we see bananas in the list. Let's say we change this to pear. we see we get no message because pair is not in the list. Now finding a list length is quite simple. It's the same as finding a string's length. We'd simply say print, pass in the length function, and then pass in my list to get the length. And note that finding the length is initially finding the number of items within the list. Great, so we get back 4, as there are 4 items within the list. Now we want more than 4 items in our list, so let's add another one. You can do this with the append method. Say mylist dot append. Now this adds a new item to the end of the list. Okay, let's say we wanted to add guava. Let's print my list. Great, so now we see banana, apple, peach, and guavas at the end. But let's say we didn't want guava at the end, but we wanted it rather at index 1 after banana. We can do this by using the insert method. So change append to insert, pass in the index in which you want the new component, which is guava, to go. In our case, we want it at index 1 after banana. Say python arrays.py. And now we see our new list has banana, guava, apple, peach, and peach. Great, just like we wanted. So now let's say we don't want 2 peaches, we want to remove one of them. We can say mylist.remove. Pass in the item we want to remove. Let's say peach. Sorry, I forgot to print this. That's why it didn't show up any result. Say print my list. So now we got banana, apple, peach, as it took out one of the peaches. But now we don't want to just pass in the name of the component. We want to pass in the index. So let's say we want to remove index 1. We can do this by using the pop method. And in brackets we put the index. So let's say index 1, since we want apple to be removed. After we run this, we see that apple was removed. Great. To clear this list and replace it with an empty list, we'll use the clear method. Now let's print this. Print my list. And now we see it gives us back an empty list as we cleared all the items within the list. Now we want to copy this list and save it as another variable. We can do this by saying creating a new variable, and we'll say list, and then in brackets we'll pass in my list. Now when we print new list, when we print new list. You'll see we get back the same as my list since it was copied. Great. There are a few other methods that I left out that are associated with lists. However, I'm not going to go through all of them as that'll take quite a bit of time. But I will put all the methods in the description box below. Okay, so in the next bit of the tutorial, we're going to be looking at tuples. Now, tuples are very similar to lists. However, items within the tuple can't be changed. It is also, the brackets are also different, as they're just normal brackets instead of square brackets. Great. So since the functions surrounding tuples are very, very similar to which of lists, I'm just going to walk through them rather than actually doing them. So this is how you declare a tuple, as you saw, exact same as lists, except the brackets are different. This is how you grab an item from a tuple and print it out, same as a list. This is how you check if an item is in the tuple. Looping through the tuple and printing each item on a new line. And then finally get in the length of the tuple. So hopefully that was all familiar to you guys, as we did do the exact same stuff with lists. But I just wanted to get us on the same page so we can move on. Great. So now let's try changing an item within the tuple. So I say my tuple. Let's try change apple to strawberry. See, we get an error because, like I said, a tuple is unchangeable, so that's why we get this error. We also can't add any items to this tuple, nor we can remove an item. However, we can delete the whole tuple by simply typing del, the name of the tuple. In my case, it's my tuple. And to confirm that it was actually deleted, let's just print it. And if we get an error, it will be deleted, since it should not actually exist. Great. So yes, it was indeed deleted, as it says it's not defined because we deleted it and it doesn't exist anymore. Great. So that's all for tuples. The next collection type we're going to be looking at in this tutorial are sets. So in this part of the tutorial, we're going to be looking at sets. So a set, unlike the last two collection types that we looked at, is unindexed and unordered. So meaning you can't reference an item within the set by its index. So if you said print the name of your set, so my set, and then say you want to get apple, you can't pass an index error, as that will give an error. So you can only add and remove items from a set. You can't change items within the set. So great. On that note, let's look at how to add an item to the set. So we'd pass in the set name. In my case, it's my set. Say .add, open brackets, and then the item you want to add. Let's say I want to add, no, we already got an orange, so let's say strawberry. Let's print it so you can see the result. Great, so now we see that strawberry was added. Notice how the order of the list changed. So instead of being apple, orange, and pear, it's orange, pear, then apple. Because like I said, it's unordered. Great. Now, let's say we wanted to add multiple items to this list. We'll use update, and then we would pass in square brackets, then the items we want to add. Let's say we want to add guava, and let's say strawberry again. Let's print it out. Great, so now we see our two items were added. Notice how inside these round brackets I put square brackets. So I'm basically passing in a whole list, just as a quick side note. Great. Let's look at how to remove an item. So we would say mySet.remove. Pass in the item name that we want to remove. Let's say apple. Great, so now we see apple was removed. Let's say we passed in an item that wasn't there. Let's say we want to remove guava. See, we get an error as guava is not in the set. But let's say we said discard. See, now we saw that even though guava wasn't in the set, it didn't give an error, it just printed out the original set. So note the difference between discard and remove. If you put remove in and the item did not exist in the set, it'll throw an error. Discard, if you put an item that does not exist in the set, it would not throw an error and just print out the original set. Great. Notice that if you put an item that does exist with discard, just like remove, it removes the item within the list. Great. Note that in lists we could use pop to remove the last item within a list, but sets are unordered. So if we call mySet.pop, we would get a random item removed within the list. So if we call .pop, a random item will be removed in the list, not the last item since it's unordered. If we wanted to clear the set, we'll call mySet.clear. Great, so we just get back that. Now, if we wanted to delete the set, we would say del, so same as tuples, just say del, pass in the name of your set, so my set, and great. So it should pass in an error since we deleted it, so it doesn't exist. Great. So notice the difference between clear and delete. Delete deletes the entire set. Clear just clears all the items within the list. Within the set. So there are a few other methods that I haven't mentioned, but just so this tutorial isn't an hour long, I'm going to add all the methods associated with sets in the description box down below. Great, so that's all for sets. The next collection type we're going to be looking at are dictionaries, so stay tuned. So in the last bit of this tutorial, we're going to be looking at dictionaries. So a dictionary is a collection which is unordered, changeable, and indexed. and in Python, dictionaries are written with curly brackets and they have keys and values. So if we look at this dictionary that I created called myDict, we can see that the keys are brand, model, and year, and the values are Toyota, Corolla, and 1990. So the value for the key brand is Toyota. The key can also be seen as a label. So the label for the value Toyota is brand. The label for the value Corolla is model. Great. So now let's say we want to access an item within this dictionary. We can do this by simply typing in print, and then we'll say we'll pass in the name of the dictionary, which in my case is myDict, and then in square brackets we'll pass in the key which we want the value of. So let's say we want the value of the key brand. So let's pass in brand. So Python. Great, so we get back Toyota. So let's say we want to change the brand to BMW. So we'll do this just like other collection types. Just say BMW. Now if we print this out, we should see the new brand added. Great, so now we see BMW as our new brand. So looping through a dictionary is quite simple, just like other collection types. We'd simply say for I in my dict prints I. So let's see what that gives us. Great, so now we see brand, model, and year, but that's not exactly what I want. Let's say we want to get the value of the keys. We can do this by saying myDict, and then in square brackets we'll pass in the brand. We'll pass in the key. So, which in this case would be I. So let's run this and see what we now get. Great, so now we see we get the values of the keys rather than just the keys like we did originally. So let's say we wanted to get the keys and the value of the keys simultaneously. We can do this by saying for x, y in myDict dot items, and then we'd say print x, y. Great. Sorry, I spelled this wrong. Great. So now we see the key and the value. Key and the value. So just like other collection types, we can check if an item in the collection type exists by using a simple if statement. So we can say if brand in, then pass in the name of your dictionary, and then just print something like yes. Great. So we can see that brand is indeed in the dictionary. So let's add an item to this dictionary. So dictionaries, unlike other collection types, doesn't use a method to add it, like such as .append or .add. You simply put in the new key that you want and the value of the key by going like saying the name of your dictionary. In square brackets, you'll put the name of the new key you want, let's say color, and then over here you'll say the value of this key. So we'll say red. So let's print this so we can see the new dictionary. Great. So now we see the new key and the new value for that key added into our dictionary. So we can remove an item by using pop. So the name of your dictionary dot pop brackets, just put in the key. Let's say we want to remove brand. Great, so now we see the key brand was removed. So if we use the method dot pop item rather than pop, we'll notice that the last item of this dictionary gets removed. Let's see this in action. Great, so now we can see the year was removed. Delete, just like other collection types that we've gone through, deletes the collection type. So we'll say DLE, pass in the name, simple stuff. And clear, just like we went through earlier in this tutorial, clears the collection type. So if we said clear and then brackets the name, so like this, we would get back an empty dictionary when we printed it out. So let's say we wanted to copy this dictionary into another dictionary that was empty. So let's say we have a dictionary called this dict. I'm going to say it's equal to my dict dot copy. And now if we print this new array, this new dictionary, great. Now we see when we print this dict, we get the same as my dict since we copied it. Great. There are a few other methods that are left out, but like always, I'll leave it in the description box down below. So that's all for this tutorial. I hope you guys found it useful in some way. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It'll help me out a lot. I'm posting Python tutorials daily. Cheers.